Welcome, friends. Thanks for tuning in to The Road Home, powered by the Truckers Service Association. This is John Piper. On this show, you will hear from drivers as we celebrated National Truck Driver Appreciation Week in September. Each driver I sit down with also served their country and is a proud veteran. Palerider from CalArk, Gus Corona from Melton Truck Lines, Ronnie Wallett from National Carriers, and Bob Buskin with Western Flyer. Take a moment to think of one or two other drivers and share this podcast with them. Be safe and enjoy this month's show. We are live with Keith Lawson, also known as Palerider. He's calling in from the yard at CalArk International in Little Rock, Arkansas. Welcome to the show, Palerider.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Well, this is awesome. As we record this, we're kicking off Truck Driver Appreciation Week. This is Monday, September 13th. I thought I was going to catch you at home, but there's some festivities going on there at CalArk. Tell us a little bit about what they're doing for the drivers there in Little Rock.
Well, they catered, the hot dog trucks came out, and they had a specialized donut truck came out, and general manager or the president, Central Holland, he was out washing trucks, and yeah, I got my wash, that's for sure.
Is it sparkling? And I know you're very proud of that 2013 Kenworth. I think it's a T660. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you're going to grab a load maybe later today and head out for the week. Yeah. One thing that's very interesting, Keith, is you've got your own YouTube channel. You started almost 10 years ago. Over 5,000 subscribers, and it was kind of funny when I called you. We'd kind of met each other before, I think, at the Great American Truck Show in Dallas a couple years ago, while you were, I think, going around the floor filming some things.
Yeah.
Now, what made you decide to start your own YouTube channel?
I don't know. I thought that is something I seen back in those days. That was early YouTube. I said, well, I can do that. So that was back before cell phones, and you had to buy a camera or something, a regular camera. So I just started doing it. I enjoyed uploading the videos and doing it ever since.
Well, that's awesome. You got a lot of content out there, and I applaud you for hitting that record button. We'll circle back on that in just a minute, but I also want to applaud you for your service to our country. You served in the Marine Corps from 1981 to 85. 4 years of service to our country. I'm tipping my cap to you right now, Keith, and we appreciate that. Not only we're very proud of you for being a professional driver, but also serving our country in the Marine Corps. Tell us a little bit about that experience. Started in your early 20s and served, I think, from the time you were 21 to 25. Yes. Probably a special time in your life.
Yeah, it was definitely an experience. Seen a lot of things and went a lot of places. That was just back when, I don't know if you remember, it was 1983, when the truck drove into the building there in Beirut, Lebanon, where a lot of the Marines were staying, and Navy personnel. And it killed, I think, 243, I believe, Marines and sailors.
Keith, were you in Beirut? Were you in Beirut at that time?
Not at that time. We had been there with our unit previously, and when that happened, we were just leaving the United States on ships, and this was our destination, was Beirut, Lebanon. So I was there before and after.
Well, probably a lot of things that you were able to build on from that experience in the Marine Corps that transitioned to being a small business owner. You've been an independent contractor for quite some time now. You've been with a division of CalArk called Central Hauling, their independent contractor division, for right at 10 years. That's a phenomenal stint at any one company. Tell us a little bit about what made you decide to get into trucking, and then we'll talk a little bit about the transition to becoming an independent contractor.
Well, I just always wanted to drive a truck since I was young, and always liked looking at trucks and seeing them driving down the road. When you're a little kid, you're doing the air pump or the arm pump thing to get them to blow their horn. I was fascinated with trucks, and then Of course, I joined the Marine Corps. Then life happened after that. Just never got around to it. And when I was 35, I just went and took the jump, started finding out how to do it, and here we are.
Well, Keith, I think we're going to see more and more men and women. Trucking's really the workforce there at CalArk. A lot of females in the workforce now. Do you know how many female drivers they have there at CalArk? Or do you see many women on the road?
Yeah, sure do. There's quite a few over here at CalArk in Central Holland, but yeah, you see it more and more out on the road.
Well, there's a huge focus on the supply chain right now. The spotlight on the trucking industry and the supply chain has never been brighter. So now more and more people that have never really thought about transportation, trucking, and supply chain are now starting to think about perhaps this is a career. Maybe if it's a non-driving job, maybe in the office, dispatch, safety, maintenance. There's so many opportunities. What would you tell a young person? Well, let's just take a step back. Not necessarily a young person, but somebody mid-career. Maybe they were 30, 35 years old like you were when you got in trucking. What would you tell them about this industry since you've learned so much over the last 25 or so years?
Well, yeah, anybody could. A lot of people think that, well, I can't do that. Look at that. Who can drive that truck? Anybody can drive that truck. Females, guys that have been working office jobs all their lives want to get out of the office and retire and come out here and drive a truck. Yeah, you can do it. I mean, it's not going to be handed to you, that's for sure, but you can surely learn. Now,
technology's changed a lot. I know a lot of the newer tractors are spec'd out with automatic transmissions. With your 2013, do you still have to shift gears, or do you have an automatic transmission?
Yeah, I have an automatic.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Would you ever go back to shifting gears?
Yeah, I miss it sometimes, but I've grown accustomed to the automatic because, especially if you're sitting in a long backup and you got to stop and go, and that clutch, you just wear your leg out. But automatics, I know it's so much a lot easier. Now, that's the good side. The downside to the automatics is that's just that much more that can break. A lot of components there.
Yeah, that's right.
Automatic transmission. So.
Well, Palerider, you've got a lot of unique experiences on the road. Tell us, like one super challenging load you had. Maybe always challenges on the road, but is there one load or one trip that really comes to mind that, like, man, I would never want to have to do that again?
Yeah, before this was back in. Well, it was 2 or 3 weeks after 9/11. I was with a company there out of North Carolina, and they used to haul out of somewhere in North Carolina. There are Safe Light windshields. I got a load out of there going up to Comac, Long Island, and like I said, it was 2 to 3 weeks after 9/11. Once I got up trying to get over to Long Island, I think it took half a day to get over there. And seeing all the emergency vehicles, you could still see the smoke rising from where the towers were at. I finally got over there. They unloaded. I finally got back over to New Jersey, and I swear, I never been so happy to be in New Jersey. It was that time, but I don't ever want to have to go through that again. That was crazy.
Yeah, as we remember and reflect the 20-year anniversary of that terrible day. And, it made us all think back in the Dallas area, headed towards the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, and just to see the air travel, all the planes starting to land. And then I just sat there and, I was listening to the news unravel on the radio, and it was just a somber moment that we can all, that we're adults that can remember. There's a lot of kids that were born that are just now 20 years old that don't have recollection, or kids that were born after that. But it was definitely a somber moment, a time of reflection, and really a time that we can all get back together and pull. Everybody's talking about, hey, what if it was like 9/12 and everybody was pulling together again? It would make this country so much stronger, and that's something that we need to remember as well.
Yeah, I remember all that. That it seemed like even in the White House, in Congress, the Senate, even political enemies were hugging each other and singing songs out on the steps of the Capitol. And I remember all that. But that didn't last too much longer.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Well, Keith, tell us a little bit about life on the road today. I know there's a huge issue with parking. I was actually at the Arkansas Trucking Association conference recently, and that was brought up again. That seems to be at the top of everyone's list of things that need to be improved. Do you personally find a lot of challenges on the road as finding parking spots at both truck stops, rest areas? Is it a challenge out there for you?
Yeah, sometimes I try to get started early in the day enough to where I can get stopped early in the afternoon. So usually don't have too much of an issue. Then again, it depending on the area of the country you're in and the truck traffic and everything. But a lot of people put down these reserved parking where you have to pay to park. But I don't have an issue with it because paid parking has saved me a lot of times of even being able to have a place to park.
What is the average cost of a paid spot? I guess that's reserved spots at truck stops, right? They normally reserve like 15 or 20 spots.
TA Petros or something. I think Flying J's are doing it now, but it all depends on the area you're in. I think some TA Petros would be like $15. Then you go around, I think West Memphis or some of the higher volume areas are like $20. I think somewhere, I can't remember which one, was 25.
Is there ever a situation, kind of put you on the spot here, a situation where, you're an independent contractor, so you pay your own expenses out there. Is there ever an opportunity where you get reimbursed for that parking due to a situation with a load, or is it usually all 100% your costs?
Well, it comes out of my pocket, but, you always write off at the end of the year.
Okay. Yeah. It's a business expense. So, there's some tax savings there. That's right. Well, hey, in wrapping up, Keith, this has been awesome. You joining us from a driver appreciation event there at CalArk in Little Rock, Arkansas. What's one thing you would like to see changed in our industry that would make it better for the trucker, the shipper, just the whole industry? Is there one thing? I know you talked to a lot of people through your YouTube channel, Palerider TV Trucking. What's that one thing that if you had the power to change it, you would do it?
Just be nice. I was going to say courtesy, be courteous, but then you got the shippers and receivers. Just be nice to us. You don't have to bow down when you walk in the door, but just be a little nice. And as far as the courtesy part, I'm talking about the drivers on the road, not just the car drivers, but the truck drivers too. Courtesy is left, well, for the most part. So I like to see that come back.
Is it still a challenge? Like you're almost expecting when you go in a shipper or a consignee that they're going to be rude to you and not be not be very cordial?
Yes, sir.
That's unfortunate. I just don't understand
Sometimes you have to, you have to tell yourself, all right, stay calm. Don't say anything. Let it roll off. But it's hard to do sometimes. You just got to turn around and walk away out of that situation because no matter what they do, you're always being the wrong, so he's got to deal with it and just say, I'm never coming back here. That's how you can fight that, is never go back.
Wow.
Keep from it.
Do you have a couple shippers that you won't go to mainly because of the consignee that you have to deliver to? Do you have a list that you keep in your head that you just won't pick up at?
Oh, yes.
Wow,
yes,
that's bizarre. I mean, I just don't understand that one. I mean, none of us...
Either the weight... I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, none of us would... I was just at a CVS pharmacy at lunch today picking up some coffee and some things for my office. And obviously I'm in the trucking industry, and I think everything on that shelf, everything in that store... And there were a couple of trucks delivering while I was there, bread truck and I think a beverage truck. None of that would be on the shelf if it wasn't for a professional driver delivering it. I mean, we should all embrace that, right?
Yeah, I don't understand it either. So you want us to deliver or pick up your product and take it. So, why are you treating us like, I don't know, second class citizens? I guess it's crazy. I never understood that.
Well, Keith Lawson, also known as Palerider and founder of the YouTube channel Palerider TV Trucking. We'll put that in the link below of the podcast. Make sure you tune in and check him out. Palerider, so good to have you on the road home. Safe travels.
Thanks for having me on.
Welcome to another segment of the road home. I'm pleased to be joined during Driver Appreciation Week by Melton Truck Lines driver Gus Corona. Welcome to the show, Gus.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, hey, it's been good getting to know you. We've been talking. We could have probably talked for another hour, but it was time to hit the record button. You've got a unique background, Gus. You spent 24 years serving our country in the United States Air Force in Southern California. You had some experience driving mainly as a hazmat inspector in Southern California. Take us back a little bit about some of your experience in the Air Force that really prepared you for life on the road.
So as I went in, after 2 years of being in, I was asked to become a truck driver. So we had some equipment that we would go out. I was a parachute rigger at the time, and we would go out to the drop zone out in Indio, California. So we would flatbed all our gear out to the desert. So, we had rigs, and we put our all-terrain vehicles, all our platforms, and take all our parachutes out to the desert, and we'd go out there and we'd rig everything. And then we'd have planes land actually out in the field, and we would load up the airplanes out in the field, and they would fly around, and they would do airdrop from all the stuff that we would rig on the plane. And it was the experience that led me from that going to actually becoming an instructor. After a year, I guess I excelled as a driver. So I actually became an instructor and a trainer myself in the Air Force. So I was a trainer and instructor for roughly 20 years that I did training for, I want to say at least 10,000 or if not more people that I trained in my time.
What great experience, Gus. And I know you've only been driving for Melton really a little less than a year, and you've already been asked to become a trainer for Melton. So Melton has a lot of faith in your ability. Obviously, you have a ton of experience. But one thing that's very surreal is this is the 20-year anniversary or remembrance of the 9/11 attacks. And you were just talking about some of the preparation and the work that the Air Force did to help assist in the search and rescue mission there. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and take us back really 20 years ago?
Yes, sir. So on the day of September 11th, I was actually working. I was on shift, and we have at the base, we have an incentive that we take care of our veterans and stuff. Well, that particular day, we're going to have a couple of flights going out with some retirees, and we're talking different eras of war that they had been in, and it's kind of a community service that we do. So we were going to fly these folks around, and we feed them lunch and stuff. Well, I was out preparing things, and I got called into the office. And when I got called in, I was watching the TV, and I saw the second plane hit the tower, and it was just emotions just took over, because it was just like we knew. I mean, most of us that were in the military, we were at war from that point on. And it was surreal as well to hear, the base has what they call the big voice in the sky. And it was everyone report to the armory, not an exercise, everyone report to the armory. So, we had to go out, get all our flak vests, weapons, and police our area. And it was like, oh, this is like real. And it was crazy. But then, we switched into a mode where we knew we had to help. So we started getting calls from LA Fire Department, San Diego Fire Department, all the urban search and rescues. And we knew all their gear was going to start coming to us. So I was a hazmat guy at the time. So I basically, all the cargo that comes in, that hazardous, I have to make sure that whatever hazards are going to go on the airplane, they're not going to bring it down. So there are certain quantities that they can bring. So like I said, I did the inspections, and we're pretty proud. By the end of that night, we wind up sending 4 aircraft. There were 141s at the time out to, actually there were C-17s. We wound up sending 4 C-17s loaded with cargo, all the urban search and rescue with dog teams. And we got to go out, and it was a matter of under 24 hours that we sent help out to New York, and I actually got a medal an achievement medal for partaking in that.
Gus, that's fantastic. And it's very surreal because just last night I started watching the documentary, I think produced by National Geographic on Hulu or Netflix or one of those. And just some of the behind the scenes footage and hearing, the battalion chiefs talk from 20 years ago, that one of them lost his brother, in the World Trade Center, and just so many, I think over 300 New York fire department firefighters lost their lives that day, and so many others, life altering. And we, after 20 years, we kind of got away from it. I know maybe you haven't, but one message that I think everybody is talking about today, as we record this on September 14th, 2021, is we need to get back to how we all felt on September the 12th, 2001, where we all came together, we worked together to help one another. And I think that's the message that this country really needs to get back to.
Yes, sir. Yeah. A lot has changed over the 20 years, and it's kind of disheartening to see the division that, the country that we're in. And, basically we're all American, and, most of us have love and, for our country, and to see the division that's been created, whether it was through politics or religion, it's real. And it's kind of saddening, to live in the time that we're living. It's not a fun time for a lot of people.
Well, Gus, you've got a great attitude. We were talking about it off air, and it's attitudes like yours that can impact not just the trucking industry, but wherever you go. When you walk into a Love's Travel Plaza or a Pilot Flying J or wherever, a Walmart parking lot to park overnight and go into that Walmart the next morning maybe to get some groceries, that cashier you run into, or that stock clerk, or somebody, a fellow driver at the coffee station there, I can tell you just got a big smile on your face, love in your heart. And you told me earlier, this is a little bit of a surprise for the trucking industry. You said you're just driving just for fun because, you got your military retirement coming in. You're getting out and seeing the USA, traveling, doing a great deed, delivering very critical freight for Melton. That really caught me off guard when you said, hey, John, I'm just doing this for fun. Tell us a little bit about what you mean by that.
Well, I mean, I set myself up when I was in the Air Force. So I planned for retirement. And so luckily, like I said, I was able to go through unscathed in my 24 years. And from setting myself up to the point where I'm at now, I'm actually I have my Melton paycheck, I have my retirement paycheck, and I'm actually getting paid through Melton from the VA for OJT program for veterans that they have. And basically we tell the VA that I'm going to a heavy equipment operators class. So I get an extra $1,700 on top of that. So I basically have 4 paychecks that are coming in. And so for me, I'm fortunate. Like I said, I am grateful. And, I'm putting my money away. I always set goals. One of my goals is either to become a fishing guide out in Corpus Christi, because that's where I'm from, to buy a boat, buy all the gear. Or
well, hey, Melton does not want to hear that. They want to keep you on as a Melton driver for a long time now. But hey, it's good to have another goal out there, fishing guide. I kind of like that.
Yeah, and like I said, but Melton, like I said, is treating me right, and I told them I'll give you all my time, and that's what I've pretty much done. So from the time I went to orientation, I drove from November all the way through middle of May without any days off. And I finally took 3 weeks off, and then now I'm driving from June through February. I'm giving them my time, and they're giving me great loads. And like you had mentioned, I'm getting to go all over the U.S. because I've been all over the world, and I've been to many countries and seen many things, but to actually be on our home ground and see. I had no idea of some of the scenery that has been out here. So far in the 10 months, I've been to every state but Maine, and I've gotten to go to Canada as well because I have my passport, I have my hazmat license, and my TWIC card. So, yeah, I'm set to go
you
anywhere
are
and do
well
anything.
equipped. You are well equipped for whatever Melton deals you. Well, Gus, you're having fun out there. You've got a big Facebook presence too, and that's kind of gotten the trucking industry's attention. I think you have over 5,000 followers on your Facebook page. Talk to us a little bit about that and kind of some of the fun you're having as far as posting maybe pictures and short video.
Yeah, so through the middle of my career in the Air Force, I just started taking pictures, and I would take pictures of all the stuff that I was doing, and it was a way for me to document the things I've done. So as my time progressed, that's what I've always done. So when I came out of the Air Force, I became a personal trainer. So in that personal trainer, I did that for 4 years, and in that 4 years, I taught in 5 different cities. But in that 4 years, I had gathered over 22,000 pictures that I took of all my clients, and there's not a day that doesn't go by in my Facebook memory that comes up from me being a trainer. And so and anything I've done, that's how, like I said, I document. And now that I've come to Melton, truckers for most in general, we're kind of introverts most part. We stick to our truck, go to our places. And I've kind of changed that a bit to where like I said, I started posting pictures and taking selfies with all our office staff. And it's like I go places and people will recognize me, and they're like, "Hey, you're Gus Corona from Facebook." And it's kind of funny that I've built that, and just to be known and recognized through my pictures. And like I said, I don't do it for anything other than documenting my time so that I can show my kids, my grandkids, and this is what your grandpa did, and this is all the places I got to see. And like I said, it's very awesome to be able to document this and be able to have this and share it with people. And like I said, I get to meet people all the time, whether it's our company drivers or other folks out in the industry. We get to talking, and like I said, I'll take a selfie with whoever, and I try to generate stories and just enjoy this moment that I'm in. And God gives us this life, and there's only one life that you live. And I decided to live it to the best of my ability and enjoy my time, be positive as I can, and be a role model if I can to other folks. And like I said, there's young guys that are coming into our field with Melton, and I get calls, and I'm answering different questions, helping folks out. And so that what led me to I got recognized, and I got asked to be a trainer. So like I said, I'm going to be able to share my experience even more now.
Well, Gus, I know your travels take you through Dallas-Fort Worth. Our studios are located just north of both Dallas and Fort Worth. So I'm going to go ahead and give you an open invite. When you're in the area, I'd love to have you come in studio, and we'll do another segment. Man, with your popularity out there, this show might go viral.
Yeah, I'd love to. Like I said, I try to maintain a positivity and anything that I do. That's what the Air Force taught me. We had 3 core values: honor, service before self, excellence in all we do. And I try to live by those. And like I said, it's just a great feeling, coming from where, because growing up, I wasn't, I didn't have a silver spoon. So I grew up, in a rough part of San Antonio. And, I was told by some teachers that I would never amount to anything. To be told that as a young kid, and to actually believe it. And, when I went into the Air Force, it changed my life. And I decided that I wasn't going to be that person that they made me out to be. And my goal was to prove them wrong. And I'm pretty sure I've done that.
Well, hey, I know a couple kids that are playing football for the Air Force Academy as we speak. Right now, they're freshmen there, and I can already see that the life change that they've already had in a short time. So no doubt about it, it changed your trajectory for Gus Corona, and now you're changing the trajectory for so many others that people you're touching. Gus, just one or two more questions.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of folks coming out of the military, men and women, that have 20-plus year careers. Some of them do retire right after the 20-year mark, some of them 24 years like yourself. What would you tell if you had a room full of military folks from all services that were getting ready to retire and to tell them about a career in trucking, what would be like the top 2 things you would tell them about why they should maybe consider getting their CDL and getting on the road?
From my experience and coming through was that doing research that in this career field, and most places will take you with no experience. There's some places that offer more money and stuff like that, but as long as you have your CDL and you have a high school diploma, this is one of the career fields that you can easily be making close to anywhere between 800 to 1,500 a week. Every Friday it's a payday, so pay is going to be there. And like I said, not having the experience, there's companies out there that will take you. The cost of, for us, being retired military, we have our GI Bill. So for us, it doesn't even really cost us anything. We do our paperwork. GI Bill will then cover the cost of the CDL course. Mine was $4,000, and Melton was great because when they, part of the recruiting, they offered to pay back the tuition. I'm like, well, I didn't actually pay for it. The VA paid for it. They're like, but you used your benefits. So Melton actually still gave me $4,000.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
For the actual tuition assistance, and it was something that they didn't have to do, extra pay. And like I said, Melton is a great company. Like I said, now those other places that I looked at, but the flatbed industry is what I wanted to stick with, and like it was everything that I wanted to do. And as far as like us military guys, there's and women that are out there, it's a great opportunity, like to further your career. And most of us, when we do retire, like I went at 19, I was able to retire at 43. So I started a second career. And like I said, whether you're doing flatbed or doing dry van or any other type of driving CDL, there's many options out there. GI Bill will cover pretty much most of that expense to be able to get your license. And once you get your license, it's up to you to choose. And like I said, there are so many places that are willing to take you on with no experience, because this industry right now is hurting for drivers.
Yeah, one of the best job opportunities in America, no doubt. Job security, second to none. And you can't transport. Like, I think you're picking up some steel there in Louisiana headed to Atlanta, Georgia. You can't transport that over the internet. You got to load it up on a big truck and keep it moving. So, hey, last question, Gus. This has been great. Sir. I know you're still very new to the industry outside the Air Force. What's one thing you would like to see changed about the trucking industry that you notice, maybe a consistent theme you see as you do your work? One thing that you would like to see improved or changed in the trucking industry that could impact trucking for the better?
Well, honestly, one of the biggest things that I've noticed is the roads in America. The roads in America are pretty horrible for us and our trucks. And it's funny that we go through DOT inspections and we have to have our trucks, in top condition, whether it's our tire pressures, all our fuel levels, all our stuff have to be at top notch, to drive our trucks. Because if not, we can get citations for any number of infractions that the DOT has. But a lot of stuff that we pick up are generally from the roads. The roads, like I said, they're pretty bad, and not just in one part, throughout this whole country. Like I said, I've gotten to drive pretty much in every state now, and there's pockets of places that you get to that it's just like, this is actually the U.S., and if the roads were redone and thought over, I believe, it'd be a lot easier for us. Even lighting in general, like at night, there's, if there's guys that drive at night, and there's lighting issues in some places where it just makes it a dangerous area. So, like I said, I think the transportation industry section for the government needs to look into, helping us out so that we're safe on the road.
Yeah, there's some infrastructure talk, and that's been an issue. the bridge going into Memphis, Tennessee is
Yep.
an issue, the aging of America, infrastructure. So that is being addressed, but it's probably not happening fast enough, Gus. But hey, we applaud your service to this great country, 24 years, and the attitude you're bringing to not only Melton Truck Lines, but everywhere you go, impacting one life at a time. Gus Corona, thanks for joining us on this segment of The Road Home.
Thank you again for having me.
It is Truck Driver Appreciation Week, and always enjoy talking to professional drivers right where they are. And this driver comes to us from the great state of Texas, independent contractor for national carriers, Mr. Ron Wallett. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Awesome. Well, in addition to your service to this country as a professional truck driver, and we thank you for that, not just this week, but all 52 weeks out of the year, sir. Your service to our country in the U.S. Army, you served 20 years. We applaud you for that, too, as we remember some tough times, 20 years ago, 9/11, and I know you had some challenges in the Army before you were released and due to some injuries. Do you mind sharing with us a little bit about your service in the Army and what led you to driving a big rig for national carriers?
Sure, no problem. Like I said, I was in the Army 20 years. I've been to Iraq twice, Afghanistan, Yemen, Somalia, Korea, the Philippines. I actually got injured in Iraq, and after I got injured, I went into the hospital for years and recovered. And when I got out of the hospital, I needed a job. I applied to several veteran-friendly trucking companies. National carriers actually took a shot on me, and I became a company driver with national carriers. And then I trained for a while, and then I became an independent contractor. And it's been a great career choice ever since. So,
Ron, what I love about your story is, after serving for a little over 20 years and, the ability to just retire. And, that's one of the fringe benefits of military service is retiring after 20 years. Told me just before we got on the air that, you weren't ready to stop. You wanted to get out there. And I can tell you're real passionate about the work you do and the impact you can make, mainly hauling, helping with our food supply here in the U.S. And talk to us a little bit about some of the distribution points, some of the shippers you pick up at and some of the distribution, the consignees that you deliver to and the impact you're making on delivering for national carriers.
Well, I did find out, during COVID, when the whole COVID thing kicked off, we would go into New York City back to back to back to make sure food distribution was done. Hunts Point, and then, multiple places across the United States, Houston, Texas, Loveland, Colorado, Denver. But we were constantly working to make sure that the food distribution was done and on time. And where other people were having a lot of shortages and stuff, that's where, as a truck driver, we were just trying to fill those gaps to make sure we alleviated those shortages or kept them to a minimum, of course. So that was our biggest focus, and we worked through the whole COVID thing. So,
Ron, we talk, the audience primarily is owner-operators that through the Trucker Service Association. We talk about finances and tax advantage strategies. And I think you've got some great tips today for our listeners. You purchase your truck and turn it every 3 years, which is a strategy I don't hear a lot from independent contractors, but I think it's worth sharing. Your fairly new model, late model Kenworth right now. Talk to us a little bit about what your accountant has shared with you and the reason why you and your wife have decided to purchase and upgrade your tractor every 3 years.
Okay, so the biggest reason I came up with that, I was brand new when I became an owner operator. I hired a CPA. We talked about it, and you get a 3-year depreciation for your tractor. So what I decided to do, rather than buy used tractors, I bought brand new. So I get to take a depreciation. I can split that up any way I want to over 3 years, depending on the money I make. But it's under warranty. So a lot of the warranty work, I'm keeping my maintenance costs down to nothing. I mean, this is the way we do it. It's not the only way, obviously. But I can plan for a truck payment, but I have a hard time planning for a turbo going out, in the middle of nowhere where I haven't been able to plan for it. So every 3 years, and I keep it under 500,000 miles, so that's the cutoff, the big drop. So as long as I trade my truck in every 3 years under 500,000 miles, I'm getting the most impact. I'm getting the most bang for my buck. I usually owe less than my truck is worth that I'm getting for a trade-in. So every time I trade my truck in, I'm actually gaining ground.
Gaining some equity, yeah.
I am. I'm gaining equity. I'm not having to put as much money down, or if I do, it just lowers my payments because now I'm buying a new truck. I don't have the maintenance costs a lot of people do, and I'm getting that tax break. So it's been very beneficial to us. I understand it's not the only way, but it's been very beneficial for the way we do it.
Well, hey, we like to give options here, and by no means, I'm not giving any financial advice. That's just a strategy and idea from an independent contractor, Ron Wallett, and it makes sense to me. And like you said, the peace of mind, Ron, knowing as you're going down Interstate 10 or up Interstate 35 towards Kansas, maybe to pick up a load, your truck brakes, your suspension, the technology on your truck, the fuel systems are all in good working condition.
Yeah, we had an issue where we broke down in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and they told us to Monroe, Louisiana. It took 3 days to fix it. Well, the tow bill was covered, the repairs were covered, and they paid for our motel room. And that's all because it was under warranty, and that was a good peace of mind. Obviously, we lost the freight. But if I wouldn't have had a brand new truck under warranty, not only would we have lost the freight, we'd have had to pay for all those things ourselves.
Well, I've heard of stories on the flip side of that, an independent contractor maybe running a 7, 8, 9-year-old tractor. That same situation happens and they've got to foot the bill, and it literally can wipe them out. It can wipe them out because a lot of independent contractors just have usually about 1 or 2 months of expenses saved up. That type of an expense would wipe that 2 months out, no doubt.
Well, we do a thing called layered economics that we do. I mean, I put up a maintenance fund account, and even though my stuff's under warranty, I still act like it's not. So I put that money up, and I have an emergency fund, and then I do CDs, and I just have different layers. So if something ever did come up, I wouldn't be completely wiped out. But like I said, luckily I do my truck where the warranty's always in effect. I always have relatively new trucks. My problems are very small, and I'm able to plan ahead and take care of things. And it really helps with your quality of life.
Well, Ron, you've been driving for a little over 5 years now with National. What's your favorite destination, favorite part of the country to travel to in your tractor?
Well, my favorite places are an opposite spectrum. I make the most money in my favorite places are up in Colorado and down Louisiana. The fuel prices are cheaper down in Louisiana, and when I go up to Colorado, usually I'm going through Oklahoma, which is very cheap fuel prices. Also, the freight prices are very high, and there's no tow roads or very few tow roads. Of course, you have the 470 going around Denver, but the cost of fuel and the lack of tolls, plus combined with the higher freight prices, make those my favorite places to go.
Well, Ron, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. And we also do something too. Like we went down to Louisiana, and people have to learn how to live out here. Like we went down to Louisiana, we took a few days off, we parked, we rented a houseboat, went out into the bayou, went fishing, did all our things, and National gave me a $3,000 load to go down there. So basically, we got paid to deliver our load, take a few days off, rent a houseboat, enjoy life, and then get right back to work.
What you just said is so important. We try to weave in some lifestyle segments, Ron, about health and wellness, taking some time off. We've talked about some vacation destinations. And you said something that I haven't really thought about, how you weave in a mini vacation while you're on the road, because all drivers, whether you're a company driver or an independent contractor, you need to take a couple days off every now and again. And why not take a couple days off at the lake, rent a boat?
Well, and I think that's where being ex-military helps us, because we're used to putting quality over quantity. I mean, like we'll take a load down to Florida, we'll park the truck, and we'll go down to South Beach overnight, go to a nice restaurant, enjoy life, watch the yachts coming in, stay the night, and then get to work the next day. People got to know what they're out here working for. And it's all about quality. Now, this is a lifestyle.
We like to try to impact change in the industry, maybe one voice at a time, and it might be your voice. I can tell you're a voice of reason. In your 5 or so years of driving, what's one thing that really you think about often that you would like to see change in our industry, something that could be improved, that we could all work together to potentially make happen?
The biggest thing I see that needs to happen, and I don't know how to exactly affect this, is it seems like there's not a lot of professional courtesy anymore. People got to think about professional courtesy. We're all out here together. We're all a brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever you want to call it. We're living on the road. Just have more professional courtesy. When you pull up to a fuel aisle, don't grab your shower bag and run in and get a shower. Just think of professional courtesy. Would you want somebody to do it to you? And if the answer is no, then you probably don't need to do it. That would be probably my biggest thing that I would love to affect. I feel being in the military was important because I learned to rely on my brothers, to work as a team, and to understand the bigger picture. And I do feel like a lot of people are lacking that, and they lack the social skills necessary to really make this a great lifestyle, because a lot of people treat this like a job. It's not a job, it's a lifestyle. Anytime you're living more on your truck than you are at home, it's a lifestyle. But that's my opinion.
Well, Ron Wallett, man, great advice. And man, we applaud you. Your 20-year service to our country, retired U.S. Army, 5 years, independent contractor at national carriers. And I can tell you're enjoying what you do. And that's so important in whatever career you choose. And we want to thank you for being a part of this segment of The Road Home.
Oh, no, I appreciate you. No problem. And you're absolutely right. I do enjoy what I do, or I wouldn't be doing it. I make the most out of it. It's been the best move for me. I told you off air, me and you, I used to work at NSA, Texas, but this has actually been probably the best move I've ever made. And it's been a great progression. It's been a great ride. I've had a lot of learning curves that I've had to make, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Well, sir, continue to carry that message, whether you're in Louisiana, Colorado, or up in Hunts Point, New York. Keep that positive message going, and be safe out there. We'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Here it is as we wrap up Driver Appreciation Week. Man, always enjoy talking with professional truck drivers, and I'm joined live from Tyler, Texas, out there on the road, Mr. Bob Buskin from Western Flyer. How you doing, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
Excellent. And we talked a few days ago. You picked up in Washington State. You picked up some produce, and you're delivering at a grocery warehouse in Tyler, Texas today. How was that trip? You've been on the road a couple days now already this week.
Yeah, it was uneventful. It's beautiful scenery, and we took a few 2-lane roads, but we stick mostly to the interstate because that's the safest place to be when you're in a truck.
Now, one thing it's a pleasure to have you on as well, Bob, as you served our country in the U.S. Army. I think you served 8 years with 2 combat deployments, and I know you're proud of your service. You got some driving experience while you were in the Army. And one thing that our listeners want to stay in tune to this one is your wife of 27 years, Stacy, is on the road with you. I mean, what a story. What a love story. And, she's there on the road with you. She's not a driver. She's just riding along with you, enjoying the USA and that big W900.
That's it. Our children are all grown now, and now we can devote the rest of our lives to just being just the two of us. And we raised our kids, and so now it's our time,
And what's powerful is, you're a small business owner. We talk to a lot of independent contractors. You got your own business out there. Man, you're getting a lot of miles. I mean, freight is abundant. Are you having any challenges finding loads out there in this market?
Oh, no. There is more freight that can, than be pushed right now.
Well, hey, let's take a step back and talk a little bit about your experience, driving and serving. You also served as, I think, a military police officer. And talk a little bit about, you already told me you've been all over the world with the Army. Talk a little bit about that experience and how that prepared you to be a professional driver, but more importantly, running your own business as an independent contractor.
Well, being in the military and driving a truck in combat, as well as being on foot patrol or dismounted foot patrol, in overseas, prepares you for hypervigilance more than anything in trucking. You really learn to watch out for things that some other drivers might not. especially for safe operations, because, out here you're just moving apples or meat or goodness knows what, but overseas, you're carrying much needed supplies, from ammunition to medical supplies to tires to binders to straps to, medical equipment, to anything that might be needed for combat effectiveness. And in your daily preparations in the military, you're preparing to save your life or other lives. And, a lot of that carries over into trucking, because, the last thing I personally ever want to do is get into an accident that would cost myself or, God forbid, someone else their life due to inattention or, just not being careful or vigilant in what you're doing, because there's so much at stake when you drive a commercial vehicle.
And Bob, when you were on those missions, there was no such thing as running out of hours or having to take a mandatory break, or you just went until you got the job done.
We drove for hours and hours. We drove for days. I mean, with, sleeping 20, 30 minutes at a time. The Army guarantees you an hour of sleep and one hot meal a day. And sometimes we didn't get either one of those.
Wow. Well, take us through one of those, if you can, if it's not, a concealed mission. One of the more challenging trips, one of the trips while you were driving overseas, and were you in a team environment? Were there multiple drivers where you all would take turns?
There were. You're in a platoon. I was always at platoon level. And for example, I'll give you one, for instance. In 2004, we picked up ammo at Navstar in Kuwait, right at the port. And we picked up ball ammo, and it goes into a Connex on the back of a flatbed truck. And we carried that. It was 155 howitzers and ball ammo, which means rounds that go in your weapon. That's considered ball ammo. And we took it to a I hesitate to say mercenary, but I don't know a better word choice, but a mercenary FOB, a forward operating base.
And hey, we like to keep it raw and real here on the show. So, hey, let it roll.
Well, at any rate, we took, 12, 13 vehicles, not including gun trucks for security. And we took this ammo to a mercenary FOB, and they had ammo is a very funny thing in the Army. You go to an ammo supply point, and there's all this rigmarole and paperwork and all this, all this stuff you have to do to get in and get out with the ammo. I mean, even when you go into the range to get your ammo, you're signing it out, you're counting it all. And we took that ammo and we dropped it in the desert, and we came back the next morning and it was all gone.
Wow. Well, Bob, I know you have.
We carried medical supplies, brother. We carried washing machines to special forces guys in northern Iraq and the Tikrit, Mosul area. We carried Christmas trees to troops, little tiny Christmas trees at Christmas of 2004. When I was in Iraq as a military policeman, we did personal security for a one-star general. We escorted him from place to place to keep him safe, as well as other command structure officers, from bird colonels to lieutenant colonels to majors to captains to, on various military police missions, which are teaching the Iraqi police how to react to contact, teaching them how proper interrogation techniques, teaching them proper techniques for searching an IED scene to try to discover how the improvised explosive device was made and how it was detonated and how we can prevent having that happen again. And,
well, Bob,
a lot of training.
Let me ask you, when you were serving as a personal security detail for, say, the brigade commander, the one-star general you just mentioned, or some other top-ranking officers in the U.S. Army, were there some tough situations, some concern, like when you were traveling, say, whether it be a convoy or a small group of vehicles in some of those parts of the world that you've mentioned? Was there some tough situations?
There were absolutely tough situations. There were tougher situations, believe it or not, when I was just a truck driver, motor transport operator, versus being personal security. Because when you work for a one-star, there's a lot of security in the sense that you would escort him to the flight line. You might get onto a Chinook or a general officer aircraft or a Black Hawk to fly with him someplace. And then there are other times that we would escort him, say, from Victory Base Complex to the international zone, to the embassy, where he could meet with higher ranking officers. I mean, we met with Ray Odierno, and we met with David Petraeus, and we escorted our brigade commander to CENTCOM, and we we stand outside and we pull security to make sure everything goes okay. Sometimes some of the hairiest things we did were taking lower grade, they're still command, but they're junior officers like majors we would escort them to Iraqi police stations. And those were the scariest things, to stand in an Iraqi police station on the third or fourth floor of a building and pray that the insurgents didn't decide this was the time to blow it up.
Wow. Just some powerful stories, some life lessons. Now, I mentioned when we were preparing for this call, I've got several friends that are veterans, and just the camaraderie and the relationships they built over time. They've stayed in touch with several of their fellow men and women that they serve with. Do you have a group of people that you stay in touch with, that you serve with over those 8 years?
I do. I still talk to people that I still talk to some people I went to basic training with. I mean, I told my daughter this when she joined the Army. It isn't about the money, because you don't make any money as a soldier. Now, don't get me wrong, when you're a general, you're making a couple of pennies. But as an enlisted soldier, the reality is that you join for the camaraderie, the friends that you'll make, the service, because that's really what it's all about. It really is. It's about who the guy standing next to you. Some guys will never understand that if they don't serve, but it really is about the man next to you or woman next to you.
Man, great message. And that applies really in the workforce today. You work for Western Flyer, approximately 1,000 drivers strong, and, several hundred non-driving employees. There's a lot of the same lessons that you learned in logistics in the U.S. Army that really apply to what you're doing today. But you mentioned this, your daughter, Savannah. You have 4 beautiful children. Your youngest daughter has followed in your footsteps and is serving in the U.S. Army. I know you and your wife, Stacy, got to be proud of all your children, but talk a little bit about Savannah and her desire to go into the Army. Is that something you encouraged her, or she just came to you one day and said, "Hey, Dad, I'm thinking about getting in the Army"? How did that come about?
It's a funny story, because out of all 4 of my children, she is the one I never expected to join the service. I always figured that one of my boys would do it. My oldest daughter would have, but she had congenital defect where she had to have surgery on elbow because her arms wouldn't straighten out, so she wasn't eligible to join. And I never knew all of my life how important my service was to my youngest daughter. And she told me in her junior year, "Dad, I want to join the service." And she got out of high school and she waited a little while. She went to a media school there in Colorado, and then she wound up with getting married, and her husband joined the service, and he's in military intelligence. And then things happen. Those kids wound up getting divorced, but she wound up joining a combat arms MOS, which really surprised me, because she's 5'0". She weighs 110 pounds, and she's a combat engineer. And if any veterans are listening to this, they know what a 12 Bravo is, and they know what she does. And she's got a frontline job. She goes out before the infantry does to clear the way, to make sure, if it's in the way, they remove it. If it's dangerous, they blow it up. It's crazy that she joined. I'm still, to this day, I'm so proud of my girl who, decided to be a 3%er. That's what veterans are. We're 3%ers.
Yeah.
Only 3% of America serve, and the other 97% enjoy the freedoms that we buy with the ultimate price, which is blood.
Man, great message right there. That was some audio gold, Bob. And man, again, I'm kind of getting goosebumps. We celebrate I don't want to say celebrate. That's not the right word, but we remember the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and then it just brings back, how everybody came together. Both the military, first responders, and that was a great segue into civilian life and what you're doing now. I can tell you enjoy what you do, and you were telling me earlier, that when you really enjoy what you do and you're passionate about serving others, which you are, being a professional driver, you're serving not only Western Flyer, you're serving your shippers, your consignees, and your family. You're providing a great living for your family. That if when you're doing that you never really work a day in your life. Can you expand on that a little bit about being passionate about what you do?
Well, I guess it's like anything else. You've got to give whatever you do 100%. I told my daughter before she joined the Army that you will get out of it what you put into it. And the same goes for anything you do in life. I tell my sons who do their jobs, and, if you give 100%, you will get 100% out of it, no matter what it is you do. I tell my boys and my girls all the time that, if they were here, they would laugh at this, but I always tell them two things. And one of which is, to thine own self be true. And the other is that, like I said earlier, that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Man, I really like that. And one reason we do this podcast, one reason I'm passionate about doing what we're doing right now is if we can impact one listener, another professional driver, maybe a young kid that's thinking about going into the military, a trucking company executive. You never know who we're going to reach, Bob, in those messages that you just shared. There's people out there struggling right now, with their career, still a lot of unemployment. And, we encourage those people to just, as they say here in Texas, pull yourself up by the bootstrap and just get after it, make a difference, follow your passion, and there's plenty of opportunity out there to do so.
Well, I'll give you an example of how, what good inner strength people should have. Recently, my wife and I were victims of identity theft. They took every penny week before last. Took every penny out of our savings and checking account. We had to get a new bank account. It's currently on hold due to, potential fraudulent activity again. My wife has been doing everything she can to protect us from cybersecurity, but it doesn't keep us from loving one another or being mad at each other or abusing each other because of financial worries. Because when it all comes down to it, no one is remembered for the dollar bill they make. Everyone is remembered for the love they gave. We think, that's how my wife and I look at things, is that, money, Tom Hanks said it really good. Money's not everything, but it sure makes it easier.
Yes. No, we can agree on that for sure. Well, hey, let's talk about life as an independent contractor. Obviously the freight and the freight rate per mile is good, but the expenses, you mentioned fuel has really jumped up, and I know it's a commodity, so it's up and down every day, but fuel is your highest price operating expense, your highest cost.
Absolutely.
What do you, on an average, and I know it sounds like you're long haul, so you generate what, on average, 2,800 to 3,500 miles a week. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I try to do better than this. Last week was almost 3,800 miles. It all depends on position. Position's a lot of it when you're loading and unloading freight. Where are you for, when you're coming out of Washington to Texas? Tyler's a pretty good spot for us because at Western Flyer, I'm in the refrigerated division. So we have Pilgrim's Pride, we have Tyson, we have various customers. And then when you get out in certain places, then you got to get a brokered load. For example, I brought out a load of Tyson meat products to Sumner, Washington. It's in the SeaTac area. And then our load of apples and pears back here to Texas for hurricane relief was a brokered load. So, the largest expense that anyone has in trucking is going to be fuel. But if you're vigilant about, buying your fuel per trip and knowing what fuel mileage your truck gets per gallon. I happen to drive one of the trucks that's on the low end of fuel mileage because of the type of truck it is. So if you're careful about it, then, you're still good. No one's getting rich, but you're going to make a good living, a decent living.
Hey, here we are, September 21st, as we record this. Do you keep pretty good numbers on your business, being a small business owner? Do you know what your total fuel costs for the month of August were?
I would have to research that. I mean, I can give you a rough example. I mean, we probably spend pretty close on good solid weeks that we decide not to go home. We're probably spending $8,000 a month plus or minus on fuel alone.
Golly, that's
not counting maintenance, for say an oil change or tires or a headlight or a wiper blade or the miscellaneous money that is required in trucking.
So wow, even if say you take a couple weeks off a year, that's still roughly $90,000, almost $100,000 a year at current fuel prices. And I know that's really hit you hard at the pump. You mentioned you were paying $2.25 a year or so ago, and for various reasons now it's the average price you're seeing is around $3.50-$3.60 a gallon. Is that right for diesel?
It is. The further west you go, the more expensive it is because they just out west they've got taxes are incredible. California was $4.30 a gallon the last time we were there. Right here in Tyler, I think it was $3.35.
Yeah,
so almost a dollar difference.
Does that impact the type of freight? Like, do you sometimes try to avoid going west for that reason?
Well, going west is absolutely one of the best freight markets today. I mean, there's not a lot of eastbound freight, at least not for us. And I personally, I do not go to New York City and I do not go to Chicago because neither one of those places are built for over-the-road trucks. And to me, it's an accident waiting to happen. Or, I've had people try to steal stuff from you. And, my wife, her father was a truck driver, and she has a story of when she was a little girl, her and her mother and dad went to Detroit, and those guys just opened up her father's trailer and just started taking stuff out of the back. So I'm real cautious about where I go. And, I keep a lock on the back. I'm very vigilant about walking around my trailer and, parking. I'm an early riser being military. And so I start my day about 3 o'clock in the morning or so. So I'm done by 3 o'clock or so in the afternoon.
That's probably best for traffic and, as long as your circadian rhythm, obviously a lot of accidents, and Bob, you probably know this, a lot of accidents happen between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. So driving from 3 to 6 a.m. can be statistically dangerous, but I can tell you're a safe driver. And do you notice when you're driving between, say, 3 and 6 a.m., do you see a lot of big trucks on the road and are some of them...
You see a lot because some drivers like to drive at night so they miss construction as well as traffic. And anymore, accidents can happen day or night. I see them all the time. And again, as we were discussing earlier, a lot of this has to do with younger, newer truck drivers who don't get very good training, and a lot of foreigners who come to America and they have the ability to buy a truck, but not the knowledge or wherewithal to safely operate it. So, it's kind of a give and take, especially at night in that 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. time. You've got to be very cautious because that's when drivers like to fall asleep. And so you got to be vigilant when you're driving. I'm very cautious about watching drivers that I pass or I'm approaching because they'll be weaving in and out of their lane. And so I try to just be real cautious about what's going on because, safety is key. My wife and I want to retire one day and not. I don't want to have survived walking the streets of Baghdad to die in a truck.
Yes. And we're all about safety here on the show. Can you talk about, you've got a very late model truck, a 2019 model Kenworth. Can you talk a little bit about some of the safety equipment that's now built in or maybe anything you've added aftermarket that helps keep you safe on the road?
Well, a lot of trucks these days have collision mitigation systems in them where they, for example, they'll have an eye in the front that if you get too close, it will automatically slow you down. They have Bendix brake systems that if it happens to sense something that you didn't see, it will automatically brake for you. There are pros and cons to those. My truck in particular, being a W900, it doesn't have any of those collision mitigation systems at all. None whatsoever. So really, trucks don't really have a big safety rating. I mean, they have a seat belt in them because trucks they don't do crash tests on them because they're not designed for a crash. They're supposed to be driven by professionals. So,
right.
I just try to be vigilant. I try to keep my following distance at 3 to 5 seconds or more. And I try to be what's called a stone in the stream. I'm sure you in trucking have heard that term before. Be a stone in the stream and just let everybody go around you. I don't ever get stressed out when people cut me off or want to jump in front of me. I just back out of it and let them go. They didn't cost me but a few minutes, and it certainly beats an accident,
Yeah, that's great advice, Bob. Stone in the stream. I like that. It's so important. More and more congestion on the road. I'm based here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They do keep expanding the highways and stuff, but we get so many trucks coming in, warehouses, logistics hubs, thousands of people, I think, moving in each and every week. So more and more four-wheelers on the roads as well. And that's usually the biggest challenge for professional drivers is folks like myself, driving a four-wheel vehicle that aren't driving safely. They're zipping in and out of traffic. And that's probably what you see as one of the biggest concerns out there on the roads. Is that correct?
It is. Everybody's in a big hurry. Everybody's always in a hurry to get where they're going. They just, one car length means the world, and really it just doesn't. Because certainly no on time is worth your life. I plan my day. One of the things I learned in the military, and I tell my kids this, is that proper mission planning prevents many problems. So, planning is key to success in anything that you do.
Yeah, hey, great advice. Bob, we have a lot of folks that tune in that might be a company driver thinking about becoming an independent contractor, or they're independent contractors and looking for maybe a business tip. I can tell you're the type of person you learn from experience. You make adjustments just like you did in the military. What's maybe one or two tips you could give other independent contractors that are tuned in right now to maybe help them be more profitable or help them enjoy life on the road at a whole nother level?
Well, I would say, with fuel being the biggest expense, really watch your fuel costs. And, if you have the ability to fuel where you want to, try to find the cheapest price for fuel, as well as only buy your fuel per trip. Aside from that, and maintenance is key. Watch your tires, get an oil change regularly, and, take care of your equipment, because that's one thing that the military teaches you for sure that civilian truck drivers should know as well, is that if you take care of your equipment, it will take care of you.
Well, Bob Buskin, independent contractor for Western Flyer out of Oklahoma City, thank you so much for joining us on this segment of The Road Home. It's been my pleasure, sir.
Roger that. Glad to be here, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I hope everyone finds success and love and happiness in their lives.
Thanks for tuning in to The Road Home. This is brought to you by the Truckers Service Association. With over 12,000 independent contractors, there is power in numbers. To learn more about all the services available from TSA, check out tsatruck.org. The show is edited by Kyle Rogers, hosted by John Piper, and available the first Wednesday of every month on Apple Podcast, Spreaker, Google Podcast, and iHeartRadio. Safe travels, and thanks for all you do.